Good morning. We are live here on Sunday, July 27th. We went and watched the Fantastic Four movie last night on July 26th, 2025. For you people in the future, in the know, and everything like that. It is a Sunday morning. It is raining. And then on those rainy mornings, it makes me get very nostalgic for when I was a kid and I would get a great stack of comic books, crawl on top of the bunk bed and listen to the rain while I read comic books. And a lot of those comic books I read were Fantastic Four comic books, and Jack Kirby stuff, the Marv Wolfman stuff. Fantastic Four 175 comes to mind of Galactus versus the High Evolutionary. I have 3 or 4 copies of the Marvel Treasury Edition where they reprinted the Galactus story with its Harold Airwalker in, what was it, Fantastic Four 120 to 124, 121 to 125, right in there. Also, on my Saturday mornings on that part of that weekend, I actually had the Fantastic Four cartoon of the 70s on. The 1994 Fantastic Four cartoon I have on DVD. I have over 1,000, if I had to guess, 1,000 comic books that are Fantastic Four, different volumes, Fantastic Four related, trade paperbacks. I'm going to show a few. And in the house, Doctor Doom, uh, this had to be the stepdad's favorite comic book character, if villain, if not comic book character. And it's one of the few times I saw the man actually have a shrine in the 80s to him, a coffee cup, a figure, some other stuff that really blew my mind when you didn't have a lot of merchandise you could find easily and stuff. All right. So if this is your first time around, make sure that you are like our buddy. Oh, Cayman X has hit it this morning. Usually we have John here first, but Cayman X is here first, right? So make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. Make sure you hit that bell to know that when I'm going to do this, I do a lot of live shows, a lot on the spur, try to make it on Sundays. I've been making videos again, 15 years on YouTube. What is that? 48 years collecting comics. And we're going to talk about the Fantastic Four movie. And go ahead and make sure you like it and let's share it. People have been sharing a lot of the live shows and a few of the videos. I appreciate you. It has helped. Yeah. So we're all in this together is how I feel, right? So we're going to be talking about the Fantastic Four movie. And I really went back and forth on even doing this, right? There will be spoilers ahead. We'll see how this goes because I finally found the word that I was looking for. Underwhelmed is the way to say it. I've got a little feedback. Believe it or not, I have one person who messaged me. They saw on Facebook that I was at the Fantastic Four movie. I have one person he said his 30-year-old son enjoyed the movie. My wife did not like the movie. The people in the theater did not like the movie. It was a unique experience because in the theater, kids started playing around, couples started talking, people started talking in the back. People actually got up from the middle of the theater and went back in the back because they heard one of their friends talking, and they started talking. People were running in and out of the theater. The longer the movie went, the less interest people had, which really surprised me, right? And this is not what I wanted. Okay. If you guys, a couple of months ago, I did a little trailer review. I was out in the woods. I've been very optimistic, and I do have to say that the entire movie did not was not horrible, but it was very underwhelming and very subdued. And there's an irony of calling it fantastic. Okay. So if you are not a Fantastic Four comic book fan and an MCU fan, I think you're going to find the movie to be pretty good. Upon rewatching the movie, if you get a few rewatches, I think the glaring plot holes and lazy ending is going to really stand out to you at some point. What's very cool right now is that we have a Superman movie, we have a Fantastic Four movie, and there were some beats of both of those that are very relatable. There's a lot of connection. The great thing about having these two movies is that yes, there's people are going to compare them, and they're going to hope that Fantastic Four blows Superman out of the water monetarily and do all this stuff and everything like that. That's great. That's old school DC versus Marvel stuff that gets people talking about it. It's exciting. It shows people still have passion and wants for these movies. And but there's an underlying tone here where there's some things that are political, and there's people who still like can't let go of the Snyderverse and all sorts of things like that. So there's other things too that complicates it, right? But I'm going to try to walk you through the movie, might touch on a few of those beats. And I think it's just a great time. It really feels like we sort of have, I don't want to say a new beginning, but we definitely have a reset going on with your MCU and your DCU, if you will, right? And that's cool. That's all right. The Fantastic Four movie being very mid, in my opinion, means they have nowhere to go but up. At least we're in a better direction now. Is what I feel like, right? But like I said, my wife, to me, the thing about movies is if you want to know if it's a really good movie, you look around the theater and see if they've got the kids, are the kids paying attention to it. If the kids are up walking, running around, stuff like that in the theater, not a good movie. Okay, and we're not talking about dramas and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Not films, something like that. So came in X, good morning. Airwalker, what a weird character. I remember he was a robot, and then he revealed he was an alien, and then he was an alien, and he took over the body of a robot. My Airwalker is from those Fantastic Four issues. Anything that came after that was a way of just trying to bring back a cool character. Yeah. Hey, we have Afro SF there. Right. Okay. Maybe there should be a re-release of the Superman Fantastic Four crossover to promote both movies. Um, I've actually got the Treasury edition that I actually thought about pulling out, but maybe there'll be a separate video or live show about the Superman Fantastic Four thing going on. I mentioned how it's actually a great time. It should be an more exciting time than it is right now. But as a longtime comic book collector, my validation came with Infinity War. Of doing all of this, and Endgame has turned into an ironic statement, if you will. So here we are. I don't know, what is it, 6 or 7 years later from Endgame, and I think we're finally getting into a better direction. At least feels like they have a plan after they got away from Kang. So we are now going to start into the movie. And like I said, I may point out a few things I noticed from the Superman movie with the Fantastic Four movie. Superman movie started out with a universe already in motion. Fantastic Four starts out with the theme of four. 4 years ago, the Fantastic Four went up in their ship, and 4 years ago, they came back down and actually landed in the ocean. And the cosmic storm that they hit, the cosmic rays, if you will, were had caused to shift their DNA into the Fantastic Four. They gave this Earth a number, and I'm just going to pull it out of my head to see if I remember. It was like 686 or something like that, right? At the end of the movie, you're going to find out there is a dedication to Jack Kirby, as there should be. And it turns out that it's his birthday date, if you will, is why they gave this Earth a number. So you're not in the proper MCU. Okay. Very cool. Superman also started out with informing the viewers that 300 years ago a superhero popped up. It was the theme of three, and they moved from 300 years ago the same superhero showed up to 30 years ago Superman arrived on Earth, to 3 years ago he debuted as Superman, and 30 minutes ago he got into a fight, and 3 minutes ago he lost his first fight. Same thing, right? So we have fresh starts with both of them, letting us know that these are in motion. We are finally getting away from origin stories, which is fine because we, number one, have the comics. Number two, they've been done before in the movies. We've seen them. That's probably the big reason I think origin, that's a good call. I would have loved to have seen the cosmic storm. And as you're going to see with Fantastic Four, that is one of the things that really bothered me. I'm not going to do this, might do the Superman Fantastic Four comparisons later in a different show, but the Fantastic Four ended up being a lot of I'm going to tell you and not show you. Okay, so we have this in motion, and they are celebrities, and we get the Kirby world. This is a 60s aesthetic universe with the Fantastic Four on covers of every magazine. They still have shows like the Jack Benny Show and things like that they're doing, and they're frequent guests, and everybody knows what they're doing. And this is straight back to the Stan Lee, Jack Kirby stuff, where they got fan mail and they didn't have masks. It was what made them different than other comic books, getting away from the alter egos and things like that. very accessible. Everyone knew them, right? And this is where I was sort of like, okay, this is cool. They're getting a few things. That's cool. And they do montage, an old newsreel montage, right? I'm surprised someone didn't have a Mid Atlantic voice with a voiceover and things like that. I'm completely going by memory. All right. So I'm watching this and I'm like, oh, they're catching us up. This is very cool exposition. We're seeing the universe for a change that they're having. I'm seeing some panels where everyone is wearing those Jack Kirby like hats and stuff. And I'm like, they finally brought it in. Because if you've watched this channel going back to 2000 or whatever it was and stuff, I told you they were getting away from the Kirby in the Marvel movies, and that's what was starting to hurt them. You've got to keep the Kirby aesthetic, the Kirby influence. And they were getting away from that, and they were replacing it with, ironically, the James Gunn humor. And I feel like that was a Disney thing, right? The tones started changing. They slowly were getting away from a lot of the Kirby designs and the Kirby action and things. They were replacing it for things for a modern audience, and it showed. You know what I mean? And the idea of a shared universe was kind of going out the door. All right, Mr. Gretzky has said it's a 7 out of 10 for the Fantastic Four, but Superman was a better movie at 9 out of 10. Okay, um, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, okay, and I'll touch on some of that stuff, right? So we start getting the aesthetic, and I'm like, okay, this is a step in the right direction. I'm trying to get past things like Pedro Pascal. He gave a very straightforward, bland performance. There was no Reed Richards coming out of him. Okay, it was Pedro Pascal being about, I want to say, a click from feeling like he was calling it in. I don't know what he was trying. He didn't emote anything, right? Reed Richards was the genius and stuff, right? And but anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself, right? So anyway, they finally give you this montage, and somewhere along the line we get one or two there, but I want to touch on them, right? So everybody was wondering, the Red Ghost. They showed John Malkovich and the Red Ghost playing the Red Ghost, and the Red Ghost has cosmically charged apes, three of them, right? Without the context of understanding who Red Ghost and his apes are, they did not show the Red Ghost in a montage. You see, I think it was Reed or someone, I don't know, but anyway, they're fighting on a building, and we just see him kick an orangutan, and it flies over, and instead of landing on the ground, it safely, I guess, lands in the water, and then we move on. And then there's another part where, a little bit later on, due to a pregnancy revealed, they go out on a balcony and they kind of show New York, and Reed Richards is pointing to this part of New York, and he's pointing at that part of New York, and he's pointing at this part of New York, and each one has a villain in the district apparently. And he's like, I've set up things to where the wizard is there, and I've set up things to where we can take on El Diablo since he's over there and things like that. And they're like, you baby proofed, villain proofed, I think you villain proofed the city. And I'm just sitting here like, oh my God, they are doing the show, not tell. And that's where I was like, here we go. They've messed up. And then let's do one more villain for you guys. The one more villain, Mole Man popped up, Subterranea. In the montage that they showed and everything like that, there was a few things we actually got. We had a very close recreation of Fantastic Four #1, the cover. We had the monster coming out for people who may not have be schooled in Fantastic Four movies, comics, because we're talking movies here. The Mole Man was their first villain, if you will, right? And his kingdom of they call it Subterranea, that goes around the earth and in the ground, and there are different races down there that he now rules over. He has bad eyesight, and he's ugly, and women rejected him, and all this stuff like that. So he went down and he went through hell. There's a crystal caverns force that will almost blind you, but he's always already blind. There's monsters down there, and he got his staff, glasses, and everything like that. And he ended up like ruling the monsters down there, right? This one, it's played by the dude from Stingray, who played Stingray from Cobra Kai, my friends. It's early in the morning. I'm drinking my coffee. We'll stumble through this together, right? And my God, I'm like, what the hell am I seeing here? Luckily, he had a very small part in this, right? And what they did with Subterranea, I was like, what the hell are they doing? Are you kidding me? But it was very dumb what they ended up doing. But even as the Mole Man, he was still Stingray when we got to see him. Apparently, he hates the surface world, but he believes and trusts Sue Storm. So apparently, they would have shots of the UN and things like that, and they always pan around, and you would see Latveria was empty, but the Mole Man would be on film and stuff, and that's one of the reasons we had peace, because Sue Storm was in the Mole Man, had some kind of relationship that. But I didn't even tell about it. It was just sort of there and implied. Okay. So anyway, we get the montages. We get this world. Okay. It's a 60s aesthetic, little futuristic, very retro. And everybody trusts the Fantastic Four, right? And this is where it felt like it was more of a play than a movie at times. But anyway, all of a sudden we start out, and our first real shot of the movie starting is Sue Storm pissing on a stick. Yeah, we open up with her peeing. I know what we're doing here. I know everybody in the world is supposed to, the adults are supposed to know that she's taking a pregnancy test while Reed is over there, doing his mathematics stuff or getting ready for something. Who knows? It didn't matter. He was shaving and he didn't take off that damn mustache. And I'll get to that in a minute. And Sue comes out, and it's not only a pea stick, but she sets it down, but it's a futuristic Reed Richards built pea stick. Okay, it's digital, and there's not a drop of piss on it. Thank goodness. Okay, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, how? How does this happen? Because we've been trying for 2 years to have a baby. And of course, he starts going into a panic about the cosmic rays and needing to do things for the baby to see if it's protected and everything like that, right? He starts worrying about their altered DNA and things, what's going to happen to this baby. And that was my first clue. In good writing, every line serves the story. So if there's a mystery of how this happened, and then since they've tried for 2 years, and all of a sudden there's a baby, and this is comic book world by people who've been hit by cosmic rays, that should have been a plot of the movie. Reed should have been suspicious. You know what I mean? So they go to dinner, and that's where you see the scenes that you saw in the trailer or wherever it was, where we're introduced to Herbie, which was very cool. Herbie was not quite a character as they made him out to be. And we have Ben being a very subdued Ben. Now, I'm not going to complain about the thing, because one of my critiques in this is that we got half a movie. They got half of the Fantastic Four correct, enough for a movie. With the Galactus and Silver Surfer part, we got half of a duo correct. Okay, we got Galactus for 99% of, 97, 96, 95. I keep thinking it'll go down, but we'll say 95% of Galactus correct, right? So yay for us. We got something that probably looked fantastic on IMAX theaters, because we didn't go to an IMAX. You're not going to believe this, but for you guys that have popped in here, the reason we ended up seeing it last night, we were going to see it today, is that in a town over, if you remember Tiffany, the teen pop sensation who sang I Think We're Alone Now, they were having a free concert with her and with two opening bands, but one of the opening bands was a Bon Jovi tribute band. We decided to go eat and watch Fantastic Four instead. Okay, so anyway, so they're having the dinner. Ben's being Ben, charming. I'm not going to go through every line and stuff, but right off the bat, Eddie Munson from Stranger Things plays a fantastic Johnny Storm. I got to say, he did do a great job. And it wasn't over the top, is what I'm getting. If you read Johnny Storm, the hothead, the guy that the girls love, the guy that likes his fast cars and fast women, and they've turned him into having an alien fetish, which is on a disgusting scale in the comics here in the last few years. It's kind of in there, but they kind of hit on all the notes. Where the Silver Surfer is female, I know it's Shia LaBeouf. They even kind of picked on him a little bit about, oh yeah, I get it. It's not like space. I like girls. We have a space girl. They touched on a few things if you know the comics. Can't ask for much more. Okay, they had the thing bickering with Johnny Storm, and they had Ben walking around very dapper. Okay, they took a lot of the New York out of him. Okay, he's still a New Yorker. He still walks around the streets of New York. The kids still love him. He talks to the chick from American Pie. Oh God, what is it? She's got some show on Hulu now. Natalie, I can't think of her name anyway, but she's super New York, redheaded, and she's not playing Elisa Masters. Apparently, she's got a bunch of kids she watches. So I don't know if it was an orphanage or if she was a school teacher. I don't know, right? But as Ben is walking down there, and people were hollering, "Hey Ben, what time is it?" And they're doing the whole clobbering time thing. That failed. By the time we get our clobbering time, it's just dead. They did not build it up like it was a thing. You know what I mean? Fell flat. It really fell flat. But anyway, they're trying to build up to having the Ben Grimm saying clobbering time. So anyway, life goes on. Everything's kind of cool. Then they talk about the pregnancy and they talk a little bit more family. And of course, there's always a press conference. It's like outside of their building, which I'm assuming was the Baxter building. It seems like I don't know how many times they just walked outside and there's a press conference waiting. And I'm sitting here like, good God, in Thunderbolts, after everyone got sucked into that dimension and they came back, instead of everybody freaking out and everything, in New York, there was still a press conference waiting as soon as everything was over. I'm like, good God, press conferences are just so convenient. And that was a big part of this movie. Everything that happened, it was lazy writing just to move the movie along because everything was convenient. Okay, as you'll see, right? But they just had press conferences left and right and people waiting on them. And then everybody, every move they made, everybody was like, what's going on? What's updating? And the Fantastic Four, this is where it goes over the top. And the Fantastic Four is like answering to these people to a certain point constantly. I'm like, oh my God, why are you? We've gone above a certain level of hero worship. And that's where I can compare a little bit to Superman, with Superman giving people hope and he will save us to where it's expected from the Fantastic Four. You know what I'm like? We will do it. What are we going to do, Reed? Everybody in the world seems to just listen to the Fantastic Four, and they rarely question anything. They turned on the Fantastic Four quite a bit in the comics, and there's a touch of that, a little bit of that. But all Ben said was like, it's getting bad out there, Anyway, and then it happens in New York. How convenient. We get a cloudy sky, and then all of a sudden just comes down the Silver Surfer, and she's, I herald this, I herald that. Your world will be destroyed, and all this stuff. And she tries to fly off, and of course, I guess she did. And of course, Johnny Storm pops up, and he tries to follow her up, and he flies 2-3 times into almost to the edge of our atmosphere where he can see down and see Earth and it's space all around him. And he's able to survive this quite a few times. He's not only is he fireproof, but apparently he is immune to cold and space radiation, or whatever, everything that our ozone layer protects us from. Johnny has no problem with this, and he touches the board and she's able to speak without an atmosphere. I could have believed in telepathy or something like that, but she's moving her lips because conveniently, not only she speaks in her language to him that he follows, but he had been handed some golden records, some albums of some sort of ancient languages. He has several of them, but he gets these albums pretty much right around the time that Shalabal Silver Surfer shows up. I'm like, how convenient. I'm like, my God. So he spends most of the movie in the background. Like, Reed's got a full plate, even though this movie takes place over weeks and months. Fair enough to say, if you will. Yeah, he decides not to bother the world's, you know, supposedly the world's smartest man with, having one sentence of a language to decipher. You know what I mean? An entire language. That's Johnny's job now. Okay, so everybody is like, will you save us? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. And he just kind of move along with the movie. And all of a sudden they were able to get her energy signature, and they were able to track her through space. And they found out that, like, look at all these 4 or 5 of these planets that I've noticed that have been blown up. She was at every one of them. I wonder what's going on. So we get them in space. And of course, there's another press conference, another UN meeting about something. Nobody is there from Latveria. And they kind of move on. And as things are going on, Reed is also trying to work on this whole thing about the pregnancy, but they don't tell. You know, I mean, they tell, they don't show. They tell, they don't show, right? And instead of building a crib, she gets mad because Reed has sent Herbie to build the crib. Sue comes in there and she's like, "I see Herbie's building the crib." And he's like, "Yeah, I built this so he can see the baby. He wants to see the baby." She's like, "No, we don't need to do that." And she closes her eyes and she uses her invisibility to where we see the baby in the womb. We see Franklin. And of course, it looks like a very healthy baby. So, what do you do when you have a very healthy baby? You get a spacesuit because Johnny Storm was mad because they had not gone back up in space in 4 years. And he had found some blueprints of something. See how scattered this is? He had blueprints of new uniforms that would work with their powers. And all of a sudden, Johnny, who did not want to bother Reed Richards, he's multitasking. Apparently, he had the suits built in no time. And now they're going into space, and there's a spacesuit that will have the baby in it also. It's a pregnancy spacesuit. And of course, we get our sci fi, very Star Wars like flying through space. We're going to go faster than the speed of light. And man, they go through all this space, and by God, they hit it the first time. They're like, "Look at the heat signature on this planet. It looks like the Silver Surfer is inside it." And all of a sudden, we get this very cool. I'm like, finally, the movie's starting. We get this very cool planet blowing up. It's a gigantic drill that comes through, a la Mole Man, if you will. A gigantic, this comes through and has a great big huge opening. I feel like I've seen this before. This design, I feel like I've seen it before. It's a gigantic drill. The planet tore apart. There's heat, there's fire, and everything. And guess what? They're conveniently able to just kind of fly into it. And the Silver Surfer is like, "Galactus wants to meet you. You should not have come." So they're walking through the coal mines, right? The inside of this thing, as the ship is processing, I guess, is what we're supposed to do. It's very dark, very black. I feel like I'm back in the quantum verse and Ant-Man. Like I can't see shit. What is going on? And the Silver Surfer is just coming up there. Now, let me comment on the Silver Surfer. Now we've been able to see her. And I tell you what, I don't know what they've done here, right? Two of the things that made me not want to go see this movie to begin with, and I knew I was going because the family, when went to the movies, we saw the trailer, they got excited. I knew I was going to go because, ironically, I could give the same speech that is given in the Fantastic Four about family. We do things, we don't poo-poo on it and stuff. And I knew I was going to go, family thing, no biggie. And it's a movie. It's not that big a deal, right? But, the Silver Surfer, you talk about a downgrade. I feel thank goodness you cannot recognize, for 99.9% of this movie, you cannot recognize the actress. I feel like she was given a role in an MCU movie. She took it. Good for her. The opportunity is great for her to get paid and get, to be a working actress, I guess. But this is one of those things where I feel like it could have hurt her career. It's quite a gamble because it was an unnecessary change. It is an unnecessary change. It should have been Norrin Radd, or it should have been Nova, right? So with the amazing, if you don't know the comics, that scene is fantastic where the planet is getting ate up. But let's go back to the comics, guys. Okay. All right. And the Silver Surfer, let's go to page 11, if you will. Right. I believe that's a good place to start. All right. So look at this: clean, clear, silver, shining, right? She looked like she needed to be buffed. The aesthetic of her was just not that cool, right? It was very gray, very subdued. It did not pop, if you will, right? And then we have Nova. All right. So if they did not want to go with Silver Surfer, and this I'm being serious, this does not make sense. If we did not want to go with a male Silver Surfer and you wanted to go with Shia LaBeouf for this universe, they had Nova. Now I have seen people say, well, maybe this was so that it was to reinforce that this is a different universe. It doesn't matter. Okay. That's not an excuse. It doesn't matter. Why are all the other characters how they're supposed to be, but you want to make this the anomaly? This is the kind of thing that people are sick of with the gender swapping, So then we get Galactus. Now, let me talk about Galactus when they meet Galactus. There's a part where I felt like I was in the Wizard of Oz, okay? The Fantastic Four, there's 4 of them. They're just walking down the ship, I guess. You know what I mean? It's very black and bleak around them. They're being led by the Silver Surfer. This felt like the Wizard of Oz being led to see Oz by one of the Emerald City guards and stuff, right? And then when they got them, but then we see Galactus, and I can just imagine seeing this on an IMAX, right? They went above and beyond in this shot, but again, it was too dark. I guess it made him look menacing, right? So they get up there and it's all black, and then you see a bit of an outline, if I remember, and then you see the eyes, the energy of the eyes. Then we get up there and we're seeing Galactus, and we're seeing him way up there and teeny tiny little people. We're getting our scale. So they got this right. They got the aesthetic right. And then they were showing shots from behind him where you could see his back and the texture of his uniform and stuff like that, and how he's talking to him. And this is where I'm just sort of like, what are they doing? Okay. So Galactus wants the baby. The baby has enough power. He tells them that the baby is hiding his power from them to look normal and everything. That he's fooling them after, like, there's nothing wrong with our baby. We're here to talk and all this stuff. Talking to this gigantic being who right then and there could have squashed him, and he should have been able to take the baby, but they managed to escape. Okay, you know what I mean? They're able to get out of there. They are able to escape from Galactus. Galactus, who could just reach out with his mind and just make them, keep them hover in the air where they can't move. But he wants the baby. We're not going to have the baby. So they're able to escape. And not only are they able to escape, they traveled faster than light to get back to Earth, where there's another press conference waiting, guys, as soon as they land, and everything like that. But Galactus sort of told him, give me the baby, I'll spare your world. She's like, nope, not going to do it. And they're all like, you're not getting my baby. So they are in the midst out in space of Galactus. And right here, I was just sort of like, oh, they wrote themselves into a hole. This is so bad. You know what I mean? But they escaped Galactus. We have a great escape. We have, even when they escape from the Death Star in Star Wars, it was because, they wanted them to escape so they could track them. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't get any of that. So here's a fully, he just ate another planet. He still is hungry, but he is still definitely full powered, if you will. That's how they kind of played around with the comics. How long had it been since Galactus ate and stuff? He's a force of the universe and stuff. They put on things, right? But they escaped. He wanted the baby, and somehow they escaped, right? So let me give you the power levels of Galactus for you people who may not know the comics, right? He takes on entire fleets. He takes on entire planets, and it's not even a fight, guys. It's not even a fight, okay? They come at him. They do this. You need to remember, I need to let you know, because the way that they beat him, and this is a man who gravitational forces of a planet doesn't bother him. He goes into the planet himself. Of course, he has machines, and the machines aren't used to destroy the planet. They're there to help. His armor and his ship, when he uses them, are there to refine the energy and make it more efficient, that he gets every bit of it. Right. And he steps out. This man can walk through space. He never really, oh man, it just kills me here. Good grief. Yeah, I'm seeing if there's anything else just to get it across to you. Here he is taking on Mephisto. I mean, Mephisto, guys. Oh man. So, or maybe he's imagining it. I haven't read that in a while, right? So this is where I'm like, this is where I'm just sitting here, and then all of a sudden, this is where the movie gets really dull. Everybody's calling the people who are like, you can protect this at the press conference. They're like, Reed is completely honest with them. You can see him thinking about what to say and how to do this stuff. And they're asking, well, so tell us how you beat Galactus. And, oh, you mean we did not beat him. He's still coming. And they're like, what? And then they're like, well, what did he say? And he was like, he was saying that he wanted our child. And we said, no. They were like, you're selfish. So the world kind of turns on them, sort of. Ben goes walking through the street. Some people say some horrible things to him, really mean G-rated things, nothing bad. And the comic book people were actually throwing their coffee and stuff at him. Now, if you really want to see how they kind of fumbled some of this stuff, you can go back. It is so easy to get this first appearance of Galactus and stuff, right? And the first thing I want to point out is, even in the midst of all this stuff that's going on with Galactus, and finding out on a biblical level that the world is going to end and Galactus is coming, and this story with Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, But Jack Kirby and stuff, this was actually like man versus God. Okay, I mean, this is supposed to be on that scale. But I want you to notice that Pedro should have read the comic so he would know that even Reed Richards shaved. Okay, all right. I could not get past. A lot of people could not get past that damn mustache, right? But when Silver Surfer arrived, you had the Watcher pop up. Okay. Just having the Silver Surfer arrive, we get to see him in space, and then he descends through the earth, and we see aliens saying, "Thank God he's not here." And we see things that were taken out of the Book of Revelations. I think, right? There's fire in the sky. There's rocks floating up there. People are in a panic and stuff, right? Everybody was just super calm through this whole thing. They were super calm. The Earth, the planet, is going to be eaten. There's a cosmic level scale coming, and we didn't get any of this, right? Even when Galactus showed up, there was no panic and stuff, right? And of course, we get the it's clobbering time. Like they really fumbled trying to make that a thing. It's not going to be a thing. And like I said, this is what I'm saying. People were turning on the Fantastic Four to where they actually tried to hit them and stuff, and Ben just kind of knocked him out with the Superman flick. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, they knew what was going on, and the Watchers showed up. There's some great stuff here, man. It did not feel like it really never really felt like they were threatened to me, and not having a lot of that stuff and having the way people reacted. It was very odd, very weird. And then we started getting into this weird stuff where it turned into some kind of like melodrama, and this is where they lost the audience. They seems like they have all the time of the world. These humans with their technology, we're able to fly faster than light, but it's going to take them about a month. Now, here's where I may need to rewatch the movie, and I'm being very careful here. But let's just put it that way. That this made no sense. How in the world did you have time? They had time to prepare. You know what I mean? The sense of urgency and stuff. And Reed at the beginning of the show showed one of his little science experiments where he took an egg and he was able to teleport it across a table, and all the power got drained, from New York. It took that much power. So his big idea on how to save the planet Earth is that he is going to teleport the entire world, the entire planet, atmosphere, gravity, everything, all the physics are just out the door. Apparently they don't apply in this universe or something, or maybe we're just supposed to assume Reed did it, but he's going to take the Earth and he's going to teleport it across space, across what he's called the bridge. He's going to teleport the entire planet and all the people into some spot in space where I guess it's going to have a sun and an orbit and the gravitational forces, and it's going to be perfectly aligned with the sun, so we have the same heat. That's his plan. And the whole world comes together in less than a month. They make these gigantic versions of this three-pronged thing that I guess are all supposed to connect and teleport the Earth. And then they have an energy crisis. And like, we got to do this. We got the whole world comes together and they start limiting the electricity they're going to use, and they're saving it up. Somewhere there's these batteries also that we never see or never have it explained. But somehow by turning off our power at 8 o'clock at night and still using as little as we can and stuff, we're going to have enough power where he barely had enough power to teleport an egg a few inches across the table. Now we're going to be able to save up and go light years and trillions and light years of where Galactus can never find us. Let's take that in for a minute. Okay. And this is where I'm going to take a break, where I'm going to show you more of Galactus, right? The entire universe is threatened by Galactus, and Reed Richards defended Galactus, saying he was a planet. He's not that so much. He's a part of nature. He's part of the cosmic balance. They start finding out and figuring out that Galactus is the samples they took from his ship. They figure out that he's older than the universe. Galactus came from a previous universe. He's a last survivor of that big bang that created us from the previous universe. That's how he became a part of the natural balance of things, right? And then there's like three great fantastic stories to pick from, at least in this book, right? The original Jack Kirby Stan Lee story, the one I mentioned, 121 to 124, 120 to 124, whatever it was. They did the John Byrne Trial Galactus and stuff, right? There are more. There are fantastic stories of Galactus in the Silver Surfer series that came out in '87. Two issues of that where the collectors go after him after they had the Infinity Stones, and we see him transform into a being of energy to talk to eternity that you saw in the Eternals and stuff, right? So I think they've kind of missed the whole point of making him more of a physical being than a cosmic entity, even though they kind of mentioned it there, right? So that's their big plan. They have all these gigantic three-pronged things at the entire world. This is where they lost the audience. This is where people were talking more. I had actually shushed and stared down the people beside me because it was getting that bad. The kids that were down here were like floating around, popping around the seats. Some dude, this has never happened to me. Some dude in the back who got on the phone. My wife's about to get go off. I was about to go off. She said she could tell I was getting irritated, getting so bad. And dude, I'm laid back. You know, people are going to chatter here and there and talk about a movie while you're there. Not a big deal. This was off the scale. I smelled skull, people. Somebody fucking got a dip of fucking skull. They had to start. It was boring them so much. Their freaking addiction started getting to them. And that's when I finally said something. I was like, man, that skull fucking stinks. I don't know if I dropped the F bomb or not, you know, but I made it pretty clear and the smell actually went away a few seconds. Within 2 minutes, I think it was gone. Okay. So while you take in that the idea, this is his idea, we're going to teleport the entire Earth to another section of space. Let's see what was going on. Yeah, Gretzky, I'll get on about Franklin here in a minute. Yeah, but isn't Franklin Richards the most powerful character on Earth? Earth X, a 12-issue miniseries by Alex Ross and Jim Kruger. Is that his name? Anyway, that came out. I consider that the bookend, but they did their version of sort of Kingdom Come with a twist. I mean, it's still a Marvel, the future of Marvel. It's much darker, and I kind of do consider that the bookend, along with Justice League versus Avengers, as the last proper Marvel books to come out. It was revealed in Earth X or Universe X or it was a trilogy that Franklin Richards did end up becoming Galactus. This is exactly where I thought they were going with it. But he had forgotten that he was Franklin Richards and that he was Galactus. And that was one of the things that tore Sue and Reed apart before Sue died also. Yeah. Okay, the title, The Most Powerful in the Marvel Universe, gets passed around a lot of characters, basically whoever they feel like that week. Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. I saw Tiffany on the New Kids on the Block tour a few years back. That's right, Gretzky. We skipped it. I've seen enough on Facebook to realize that people had a good time, but it's cool. Too much Herbie. Um, okay, okay. I can go. I get you. I get you. That was something for the kids and to sell toys. Maybe if Herbie wasn't there, the movie wouldn't have changed in any shape, form. You know what I mean? Issues 48 to 50. Johnny went to college. Gotcha. Gotcha. That's a character I haven't heard since Mephisto. Yeah. They mentioned people were really wanting Mephisto in all those Disney shows and stuff. And I think they threw him the bone here recently. I don't know. I don't know. They evacuated the city underground. There was a panic. Oh, I'm getting to that, the RDV. Yeah, I'm getting to that. I'm kind of letting this go. And uh, Fantastic Four was a fun movie. Galactus was great. Yeah, it was cool. That's what I'm trying to say. There was things that was cool, and there were steps in the right direction, but it was still underwhelming, and they really dropped the ball with a few things. It's like that's what this whole process is of doing the movie. Let me see. Herbie was less annoying than Crypto. Marvel got that right. Is White Wingfoot in it? No, but it doesn't mean I didn't spot him as an Easter egg. Supposedly, the 1994 cast of the Roger Corman movie was supposed to be in there, and I was looking for him. I didn't see him. The flaws you're pointing out are the same flawed logic that Stan Lee used in the comic. There is no White Wingfoot. Well, maybe one day. The end of me, yeah, came in X, yeah. And then I didn't like it much because I was expecting a devastating ending. That's what I mean. The story was telling one thing, and they ended up doing another. So that's what I'm trying to get at. This felt like we were getting some, I don't know what you call it. Maybe this is fan service done bad. It's like it really feels like they were trying to let people know that we are resetting. Sorry about this last phase that we did, and this is actually where we're trying to get a real good beginning going. Okay, so here they are. Weeks have gone by, and in less than a month, they've got the whole world to come together and make these three pronged things. That if you turn them over, man, it was like a claw machine. Anyway, and they're doing a countdown. Galactus has entered the solar system. Silver Surfer's coming. They're the world. They're coming. They're telling everybody to brace themselves and stuff, right? And they do the countdown. And of course, physics do not. It's a comic book movie. I can forgive things. Bullets, people can fly. Bullets can bounce across. There's just certain things, but the things that were going on. But as the Silver Surfer, Shalabal, ends up on Earth, they automatically know what they're doing. They automatically know where she automatically knows where she needs to go. She automatically knows what she needs to do. And they actually show briefly the world map and a line of Silver Surfer hitting everything perfect. She's destroying every claw machine, claw teleportation device, except the one in New York. She didn't get that one. She's going around the world. She's blowing them all up. They were just seconds from teleporting the Earth and everything. And Galactus is coming, and he wants the baby, and he's going to eat the world because the baby has the power cosmic. And I love how they don't explain the power cosmic. And my wife looked at me, and I'm like, "It means you can be one with the universe." That's all I had to say, right? So they want the baby. And what is so okay? This has failed. The Silver Surfer, instead of just coming in, she knows they know where every little claw machine is to blow it up. But again, they don't go directly after the Fantastic Four. They don't go directly after the baby. What do they do? Johnny talks to her, and apparently this is supposed to be a moment where she reveals her origin and she left a child behind. No mention of Norrin Rad and all this stuff, and she lets her know that her planet was spared because she went with him, and she's the one that chooses the planets and all this stuff. And apparently, she just kind of flies off after Johnny talks to her and reveals that he figured out her language and he spoke to her in his language. And apparently, that brought back some humanity or something, or what was going on. But she just kind of wanders off, right? And like I said, it's really hard to pay attention to the movie at this point. I mean, it really is, right? Until we find out Reed's plan again. Now, this time his plan is we don't go to Galactus. Galactus comes to us. And now they're going to use the baby as bait. They're going to they already know what the claw machines are. This is what I'm saying. This is where logic of a story, not comic book logic of a story goes out the window. They already know. So at least the Silver Surfer knew. I'm assuming Galactus would know. But they decide that they're going to put the baby in a baby carrier that Rita's made that is radiation proof and everything. And they're going to use the baby as bait and hope that Galactus comes down to go get the baby. And for some reason, he doesn't just drop into New York. He decides to drop into the ocean. Now, where are the people during all this? Well, they're coming up with this plan. Again, all of a sudden, they have time to plan. Maybe Galactus is still flying there and Silver Surfer came out. I don't know. Nobody knew. And you probably have to watch it again to see how they address that, right? But yeah, they're trying to get this movie going. This is where the lazy writing comes in because let's just do this, right? So all of a sudden, we get a little scene with the Mole Man coming in while they're planning to use their kid as bait now. But they're going to go ahead and oh yeah. Let me back up here. They had to have where people were turning on them. Sue had to come out and give a speech in front of everybody. These people just walk out with no bodyguards, no equipment, no nothing. They just trust everybody. And there's always people there for a press conference. That's what was killing me. But she comes out holding the baby. I don't know what they were going for. I mean, they took out the religious overtones of this, of man versus God. And I have a video from way back where people used to say that, Galactus was God and he the fallen sun that has come to Earth and everything like that, and trapped, and they were trying to give that Norrin Rad was a Christ figure. If you look at it, it's more like Lucifer Morningstar rebelling against God and him falling to Earth and being trapped in hell. That's more like what it was about. Well, they took all that out, so I'm not even going to try to allude what they could have done here with her holding the baby that everybody wanted to sacrifice to save the Earth. But anyway, she comes out there, and with one little speech, she has people crying and saying, and she ends her speech, and the speech wasn't even that moving. That's what got me. People again were starting to talk. This is part of that real boring part. She gives this thing about family, and we're family, and we're not going to give up the family. But I'll tell you what, I will not give up my child to save this world, but I will not give up this world to save my child. We will protect you. And everybody's back on. I'm like, what the fuck? What? I mean, I don't know what they were going for here, but they definitely did not nail it. So they go on with their plan. Okay, we're going to use the baby and all that stuff, right? So Galactus has arrived. We get to see Galactus here, right? Now, I'm going to say that if I threw out all logic to this was very cool to see. So when they were having a rundown and realizing Galactus's scale, um, they're willing to take out part of New York to get rid of Galactus. Sacrifices have to be made. Good, that's fine, right? So they have everybody. They have the Mole Man comes in, and this is where we get Stingray from Cobra Kai coming in with his God, guys. Okay, reining in, but very lame. Okay, but he comes in. He's supposed to have all this hate for people from above and everything on the surface world. Anyway, Sue, after he like not attacks, but verbally attacks everybody, and I don't know. God, it was so bad. It really was so bad. This is their most horrible adaptation of any character, including the Eternals. Right. But anyway, in just a few scenes, you absolutely hate the Mole Man. He's not a sympathetic character. That's part of what made him work in the comic, is that he's a dick because everybody was mean to him because he was ugly. All right. This one, he's just a dick. All right. And Sue was like, why are you talking like that to everybody? And supposedly he has some talk where he's like, okay, Sue, what do you want me to do? Now check this out. He has this vast underground kingdom. He's, so they're able to take everybody in New York and in just a few hours have everybody evacuated, and they drive into his underground realm. All right. We don't get to see any of his subhuman race of underground people that were down there and stuff from the comics or anything like that. But we see everybody going underground, and there's like little buildings up in there and stuff. It's not even a grand scale kind of thing. There's a freaking road that you take to go into Subterranea in New York. Right? There's a freaking highway going into it. And I'm like, oh my God. You're trying, and then when the Galactus is walking around and stomping around and fighting and falling and stuff like that, everybody's just sitting there and they're like, oh. And what they do, so help me, they just have a shot of a rock ceiling. I could have held a rock to this camera. And that's what it looked like. That was it, guys, right there. I mean, crumple it up a little bit. Yeah. And that's where the people were like, oh no, I'm like, freaking Lord of the Rings did this shit better. I'm like, when I had all the people, anyway, but yeah, I was like, oh my God, they were just, trying to spot on this stuff. Right. So Galactus lands instead of just landing right down where the baby is, because he had to scan it with his eyes, to find the baby, to find Franklin Richards and everything like that, right? So he lands in the ocean, of course. So now we get the ocean and all this stuff. This is where Namor should have popped up, but it's not going to happen. Oh my God. So anyway, he's walking through there. And of course, there's a little building here. He swipes by and stuff, and they're following. He's scanning. And then the Fantastic Four are coming in, trying to do what they need to do. And he's walking. Galactus floats, guys. He has landed before. He has done a lot of this stuff. So he's just walking through. They're doing things. And of course, right there, we see that they're going to open up a portal with the last bridge, and they're going to send him out trillions and trillions of miles out in space where he'll never be able to find him again, and he'll be helpless without his ship. Even though Galactus can use his mind in the comics like he did on in Secret Wars to make the ship come to him if he's separated. They don't know that, so fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. That's me, guys. That one's on me. That's one critique that wasn't fair. So anyway, so Galactus sees this. Yes, it's an alien world. Yes, I mean, I can come up with all kinds of excuses of just keep the movie going about why Galactus would not be suspicious that there's just a baby in an abandoned city right there in the middle of a gigantic claw machine with a gigantic square and a circle and an X marks the spot where somebody needs to stand. They're going to open up a portal and try to get him through in 37 seconds. They had 37 seconds worth of power left because I guess they failed to make the thing transport, right? So Galactus isn't suspicious, but at the last minute when they think they've tricked him, he scans it one more time, and what they did is when they were able to have Ben like smack Galactus across the face by him finally yelling clobbering time that fell flat, not one cheer in the building or a laugh. It knocks him down, knocks him around. They're doing their thing, and somebody runs in and they switch it. Now we have an empty carrier, and they take off and they let Herbie, and it didn't even take them to the underground place. Didn't do anything. They leave him with Herbie in the Baxter building, in the building. You know what I mean? Like just a few blocks away, right? And of course, Galactus wants to go after them, and we get our best King Kong there and stuff because he's figured it out. But somehow they get him back. They get him back. He's got the baby in hand. We got maybe that's where clobbering time came in. Who knows, right? But in the midst of all this, Ben has started growing a beard. Right. And apparently the way he shaves is that he gets a gigantic power tool to start to get it. I had a problem with this, but we're going to let that go. Pedro Morales will not shave for this, but Ben Grimm will, who's supposed to be non-vulnerable, and he's able to shave his rock. It's not how it's supposed to work. Maybe the tight stuff towards the skin is the invulnerable part, and this is the stuff that comes off is less. Less. He's not even supposed to be able to grow a beard. Anyway, yeah, but he's grown a rock beard through this and stuff, right? But yeah, like I said, the thing will shave, but not Pedro. Anyway, so so they get in there, and I'm just going to get to the point, right? But oh, good grief, Sue ends up having the power to take her invisible constructs, I guess. That's very prism-like, and we see her doing this. And she's emoting with her face you can tell it's to a green screen. And she is able to the man who can walk through molten lava, the man who can walk past a black hole and all the stuff. She now sudden has the power because she's a mom. She's going to have that adrenaline rush that flip over a Volkswagen off a baby. But she's going to go ahead and she's able to push him, right? Galactus can barely fight her. He's just going. And all this stuff. He's going, she's pushing him through. She's pushing him through. It's happening, man. It's happening. And he's in, and they've shaved the baby and stuff. And she dies, right? So she has fast sacrificed herself to the point of pushing a being that never should have happened through this portal. And they leave the freaking portal open, and he's able to crawl back out. And now they got to get him back again because he's coming again. And Sue is dead. Maybe this is where Sue did him. I don't know. But no, Johnny Storm is like, I'll sacrifice myself. And I don't know what he thought he was going to do, but he was just flying towards him. And all of a sudden, the Silver Surfer, Shallabal, gets to redeem herself because she moves him out of the way, makes a little bit of eye contact with him, and bam, through the portal. Now it closes. And that was the longest 37 seconds ever. And they're gone. But Sue is dead, right? And everybody comes around. They're like, oh, no. Oh, Sue. And all this stuff, right where everything should be melodramatic, right? And this is going on, and now it's predictable, right? And so now the baby is crying, and they let the baby on. They put the baby. Check this. Think about this in real life. They take the baby who's crying, and they lay the baby down on its dead mother. And the baby's like, oh, and it does this thing where it holds them, no special effects. My wife goes, dear God, she would be brain dead by now. And the baby brings Sue back to life, and we get a little baby smile. Guys, this is real. This is the real movie they came up with. No Watcher. In the comic book, to defeat Galactus, Johnny Storm went up into his ship while they were detaining him, distracting him and stuff, and they found the ultimate nullifier, and they didn't really beat Galactus. They just threatened to blow him and everything else up. You're not, all this stuff with the ultimate nullifier that you weren't clear what was going to happen and stuff, right? The freaking comic book from the 60s made more sense than this movie from 2025. So yeah, I know it's got high Rotten Tomato ratings and stuff, but the theater I was in, people were just sort of like so underwhelmed, man. They're on their phones now, and everybody's talking, and now I'm not giving a shit. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh wow. And my wife is just out of the movie. My wife is just completely out of the movie, as is everybody in that theater. So yeah, whatever happens. I don't know. I think there was another press conference, whatever, and then they skip ahead a few years, right? and we see Sue coming around the corner, and we see here's your was that the ending? No, no, that's the mid-credit scene, I think. The mid-credit scene, excuse me. So here's a big spoiler, right? So the mid-credit scene is that we see the back of right sitting right on a chair, sitting right on a couch, sitting there, and we see the back of Doctor Doom, and he's holding Franklin Richards, who's now an older kid now, and he's taken off his mask and it's cut. So now everything comes on. People are leaving. They don't even care about the scenes and stuff. Some guy's on his phone. Some people get up, and where he was talking so loud, he had friends in the front that went back to talk to him. I can tell you more was going on in the theater and stuff. And we're just kind of sitting there, and I'm like, okay, maybe they'll say, I'm here. So we get to the end, and here's your very last post credit scene that you sit there for, right? They do a recreation clips show of the 60s cartoon show done in the style of our heroes from it. We have a Pedro Morales with a pencil thin mustache in the cartoon. And then that's it. It meant nothing. Right. So you can have fun with it, I guess, if you turn off your brain, you go with it, but the film felt very claustrophobic. It dragged so bad there for so long. A lot of elements from the comic were missing, which is why I'm trying to separate in my head the movie from this. So basically, you got half a movie. Half the movie was good. Johnny and Ben were good. Galactus was pretty good, even the lame way they got rid of him. And that was it. You know what I mean? They kicked a monkey. We get to hear about some of these Silver Age villains and not see them. And if you watch the beginning of it, we're talking about one of the red ghost orangutans or something. They kicked the monkey. Yeah, and then they went to space and they made it back quicker than the higher life forms. And they have a highway that goes into Subterranea to get all of New York in there. Everybody just came together and did what they needed to do and just turned on the Fantastic Four a little bit. And Pedro didn't shave, even though the Thing was shaving, and he had time to shave in the comic book in the midst of Galactus arriving. Yeah, so I'm very disappointed in it. So what would I tell you to do? How do we get around this? If you like the movie, that is fantastic. There are bits and pieces. It is still definitely a step in the right direction, considering the crap that started with Eternals on all the way back to whatever, Quantum Mania and stuff that got rid of Kang. So what would I do? I would go to the best of the Fantastic Four movies and stick to Incredibles #1. Incredibles #1. All right, Incredibles movie by Pixar. That's your Fantastic Four movie, guys. Okay, that's the one. So we do have a great Fantastic Four movie out there. It's The Incredibles, right? All right. All right, comments here. Caesar, I can't get him to come up, but this is a great one. RDV, Caesar Romero never showed up for Batman 66. That was part of the camp, sir, and that was great. You know what I mean? So that would have been cool. The #1 reason I don't go to theaters because I don't like noisy theaters. I don't want to hear people reacting to movies. Well, there's appropriate times. There are appropriate times. I have said things out, but I'm usually with the crowd. So this was not one of them. So you would have went nuts in this. Yeah, this was not one of those times. So yeah, you would have went nuts in this. But like I said, the further the movie went, the more I understood. It seemed to me the way the movie jumped around a lot, it was badly edited. Yes, that. Like I said, I heard that I've been hearing for months John Malkovich was going to be the Red Ghost. We were going to see him. I mean, I don't know if that was true or not, but he wasn't there. But the Red Ghost and the apes were there. Where there's smoke, there's fire. There was some truth to something, I don't know. It seemed like there were a lot of movie jumped around a lot. It was badly edited. It seems like there should have been more to flesh out the story. I heard they did reshoots all the way into June, and that's what I'm getting at. I think we saw a bunch of reshoots. Yeah. They needed a hit, guys. They needed a hit. They needed a success. So I think they went over this thing with a fine tooth comb too much and just sucked the soul out of it. You know what I mean? Like I said, you may go to it and can be completely fine. Movie, comics, different things, but we had our proper Fantastic Four movie right here. People who know the Fantastic Four on this channel and other channels over the years, we were like, it's got to be set in the 60s somehow, maybe jump them up in a time travel thing to the beginning. The people come up all the ways, but they were like, it's got to have that 60s aesthetic. We had it all with what this movie could have been, and it fell flat. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I think people were just glad to have a decent Marvel movie. You got to what? See, I've said this before, and I've been thinking about it. And I kind of look around and stuff, but they've been making these movies since 2008, guys. That's 17. There are people who literal people listen to me. There are people who were kids watching these movies, and can you just imagine how great their childhood is to where they got to grow up with these Marvel movies every summer and 2, 3 times a year and stuff like that. So they've got an audience there who are going to be like, they're willing to eat the shit because they had a feast for so long. You know what I mean? They want it to be good. They're going to defend the Marvel universe because it's part of their childhood. You know what I mean? We've seen it with Star Wars people and Star Trek people and people like me and stuff with certain things. With Indiana Jones. All right, the movie really we got here. Okay. RDV, that was Skulatorium. RDV, the movie really felt like the cheesy Lee Kirby comics. That's what I'm saying. It was right there. You suspend your logic because you're having fun. You suspend your logic because you're having fun. There is a thing, and you're right. But there's this thing, and it's called a contract with the audience, right? We're going to make the rules in our story. You're going to suspend your disbelief, and we're not going to break our own rules that we make in this world. And you won't suspend your disbelief. We'll set up the rules. They broke their own rules. Okay. That's what takes people out of the movie and stuff, is when they break their own rules and they go too far without the logic. You know what I'm saying? And that's what they did here. You know what I mean? With a lot of things. I think over the years with newer viewings, when people start really watching it. It happened to me with Spider-Man #2. I thought Spider-Man #2 was like one of the greatest superhero movie I'd ever seen. Then I watched it the second time and I noticed how horrible the dialogue was, right? That's what this movie is. I think people are going to start watching it and start questioning things like, wait a minute, and what, But thankfully, we're not going to see the Fantastic Four again until Avengers Doomsday movie, which I think is 2 years away or something. I have to watch the video later. I'm watching the movie tomorrow. Yeah, I understand. That's why I put spoilers out there, brother. I knew people wouldn't want the movie ruined. One has an actual house with an elevator in the comics. I got the anniversary issue. What was it? Is it the which one is it? Oh, I guess the 25th anniversary. I had the 25th anniversary story that I loved, where Barry Windsor Smith came in, drew it. I think Stan Lee plotted it. Maybe Jim Shooter had something to do with it also, where the Thing goes and ends up living with the Mole Man, going all full circle all the way back to issue #1. I think it's been a while since I read the book, but he had a lavish little lifestyle down there. Yeah. Pedro Pascal was fantastic. Prime Collector. He's the best actor of a generation. Also, Tom King's comes of our generation. Clown face. I'm saying clown face outside real life. Prime One Collector, because I can't share comments. But the two clown face is the exact rating that should have had for that comment. I appreciate that. That's great. Oh, Tom King. Oh my goodness. Sue's the most powerful Fantastic Four member. Stringway is the worst part of the movie. Exactly. Now, Sue is the most powerful. John Byrne established she was the most powerful member of the Fantastic Four. But, brother, Galactus is a legitimate force of nature. You know what I mean? There's no way that happened. There's no way that Sue Storm would be able to push Galactus. Even when he was in a state of starvation. Okay. Oh my God. But yeah, RDV, I'm glad you liked the movie. I'm not trying to ruin the movie for you. And I think you've got a great attitude in the comment section. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the levity and the maturity you're showing. Adam Warlock is the Christ-like figure in the Marvel Universe. Afro. Yeah. I can go with that. Starlin did what Starlin did, man. Or maybe he takes a sweet time. I'm reading the comments backwards here. So, Oh, there's John. What's up, John? Be like John. Make sure if you made it this far that you have liked the video, subscribe, and be like John. Hit that bell to know when we're going to do this. The ending with Doctor Doom was interesting. I do like the ending parts with Marvel movies because a little snapshot of what's to come. Yeah, they got nowhere to go but up. But if it finally feels like they're in the right direction, if you guys who have watched me forever, you've seen me say from the beginning. As soon as I heard that Kang was going to be the new major villain, I'm like, that's wrong. That's a misstep. He's a joke. And of course, we see how that went. And now they're reporting now that they were seeing that Kang was not Thanos before the actor got in trouble. We'll just leave it at that. Whether that, whatever, they'll say whatever they need to say. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. Not it for me to say. I don't know. I'm not cared. Not really invested. But like I said, Kang was. That's where they went. That's one more step where they went wrong, trying to make him the main villain. No, Doctor Doom. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, so I'm trying to say they have nowhere to go but up. RDV, I want a Ghost Rider show up and give Galactus the peanut stare. Oh, that is so funny, man. Yeah, I've never seen that in the cartoon in the 90s. That was very cool. That happened. It sounds like you may have watched it. Silver Surfer could catch them in FTL. Maybe Galactus can travel that fast. Or maybe he takes his sweet time because he's cocky. Tortoise in the hair, baby. Tortoise in the hair. All right, let me see where we're at here. Let me see. No White Wingfoot. The Doctor Doom post credit scene was so low effort. Yeah, but I mean, I'm thinking they were hoping that everybody with the hype of here's what I think. I think it wasn't so much that people were supposed to be hyped over Doctor Doom. Okay, I think it was the actor. They expected everybody to they're portraying announcing who the actor is. Um, who the actor is playing it, that's enough to get all the Marvel fans excited and stuff. I don't think it was, ooh, that's Doom with the baby. They're like, Downey Jr. baby, and it didn't work. Okay, Downey Jr. is Iron Man. They're going to have to win people over with the actual scenes of him as Doctor Doom. It's going to be Downey's Jr. It's going to be Robert Downey Jr.'s performance and what they give him to work with to win us over. And see what's going on there. And I feel like Downey can pull it off if so we'll see. But yeah, this didn't work the way they thought. RDB, I really like Fantastic more than Superman. Superman underwhelmed me. It suffered from the same problems Godzilla movies here. It was less about Superman and hard to wait too many others needed characters. I liked Superman better. I like the obviously I like the Incredibles better than this movie, right? But I think I do feel like Superman was the better movie because things happened. There was action, not a lot of low points. It's more of a structure thing. People got exposed to a more authentic DC universe from the comics and stuff like that. And I think that tone really shocked people and stuff. Or they just don't like Superman and stuff, right? But if I'm really going to compare these movies, I think Superman is the one that is has a lot more mileage for being able to rewatch it and stuff, right? The fact that it's not Superman centric works for me. The fact that this whole world seems to be this whole story was just too convenient. There was always a press conference there. They had their, nothing really got in their way. Everything just sort of worked out. Look at that. She destroyed every claw machine transporter in the world, but she left the one right here out, just a couple blocks from us. We still have that. Awesome. You know what I mean? Like it's just too many things were convenient, At least Superman had to choose. Do I go stop the dimensional portal from tearing up Metropolis, or do I go save a whole bunch of people who are going to be invaded by this third world country? While they have children and a war zone at the border, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like there's still things Superman was not perfect, which I'm willing to admit, Comet Crack. All I want to know is if you're still here, Comet Crack, Galactus on an IMAX screen. I could just imagine him looking phenomenal. They got the aesthetic right. Okay. The ending with Doctor Doom was interesting. Yeah, there we go. That's it. All right. See if there's any more. I think I'm going to go make some gravy biscuits. Fantastic 20 RDV. Fantastic Four 2005 is the best Fantastic Four. That may be the best Fantastic Four. I'm gonna have to process process that, for my opinion. It's cool, but I thought Silver Surfer in the second one, that should have been a whole Silver Surfer movie. That's the only thing I freaking liked in that whole movie was Silver Surfer. Some of the things they did with him, where he was able to kind of T2 out of his Silver Surfer, out of his board. You know what I mean? I don't. Yeah, I grew up with that. That was such a cool shot when Silver Surfer appeared out of his surfboard. That was awesome. I grew up the '90s Marvel and DC cartoons. So far, nothing live action has been as cool as the cartoons for me. Superman 78 is the only exception, and that they've never topped the first 45 or 50 minutes of that movie. Stanley said the person who wins is determined by the writer. I agree with Stan. Try not to get angry. That's cool, man. No worries. Okay, guys. So that's it. Thanks for hanging in here with me. I went about 15 minutes longer than I wanted to, so I am going to hop. Let me know what in the future. Make sure you guys have liked the video, subscribed. Hey, brother, I want Superman to do well. I want Fantastic Four to do well. I just feel like this wasn't a great movie. I feel like it was a step in the right direction. But I do acknowledge that, and maybe I should have said this at the beginning. I do want to acknowledge something that's very cool, man. We can sit here and critique these things. We pay our money. We can say what we want to say about them, I feel like. But at the end of the day, I do want to acknowledge that we live in a great time to where, I've been here 2-3 times before over the last 15 years where, I had a Doom Patrol TV show, a Swamp Thing TV show, but the Doom Patrol got a freaking TV show, right? And there's other little things that have popped up like that. But if you had told the 7-8-year-old me that I would have a Superman movie and a Fantastic Four movie, and a Fantastic Four movie that pulled from the Kirby stuff correctly, you know what I'm saying, on a lot of things, I wouldn't be able to believe it. So we've had a fresh start to the DC comic book movie universe. To me, this is a real first start to the new Marvel stuff that's coming with the next phase. It's what it feels like to me. So we live in a time that is, I'm very appreciative of the fact that we have these two movies coming out. Superman, who started the superhero comics of 1938, and in 1961 we have Fantastic Four that started the Marvel universe, and they came out in the same month. And neither one felt like a disrespectful adaptation, right? So yeah, even though I was underwhelmed by Fantastic Four, man, I want to just say that I'm very appreciative to live in a time where we got it, with a Superman movie. That is unreal, guys. You know what I mean? And like I said, I've been doing this stuff since, for what is it? 1977. So what is that? 48 years now, 15 years on YouTube. And I got to tell you, man, it's great to still have things where I'm just sort of like things I never thought would happen. All right, guys, be excellent. Read your comic books, go see the movies, enjoy the rest of your summer, and later.